CHAP tales. Don't you wanna hear some CHAP tales? Howdy, strangers. How you doing, people? You good? You good? Good. Okay. So I've been scraping the barrel big time, thinking of every little story in my nut. And I remembered this one. It's another one to do with fishing, but this is like when we was like younger, sort of, I don't know, 14 maybe, something like that. Anyway, me and Mr. Ben Hyde, my friend, decide we will go night fishing. It must have been a weekend, like a Saturday or something, at the Boater, which is the third pond at Parliament Hill. And yeah, we're doing nights fishing together or whatever, but this is like early fishing, like float fishing or whatever. Like we weren't like big carp fishermen with loads of gear and all that, you know what I mean? We had a little Argos tent, I think, and a few bits and bobs. Anyway, so we get there, and I can remember it was the far left corner near the fourth pond with the fence. We was in that corner for some reason, I don't know why, but so we was there, tent set up, couple of chairs, do you know what I mean? Like I had a little silly rod pod that I had my float rod on, which was actually a Browning waggler rod, 13-foot Browning waggler rod, and a nice little Browning reel, and I can't remember what Ben had, a rod and a reel or whatever. And then we had like our tackle boxes and like our bait and food for the evening and stuff like that. Anyway, so we're sitting there, like, and it must have been quite late. I don't know, about 2 a.m, something like that. 1 a.m, 2 a.m, something like that. And we're sitting in our chairs, and we had a couple of right nice chairs. I think they was actually carp fishing chairs, but we got them like for our own comfort. But yeah, so we're sitting there, and then I've like fallen to sleep. So I've just fallen to sleep, and then whatever. But I awake at, I don't know, 6, something like that, just as the sun's coming up or whatever, and it's lightening up. And then I look around, and Ben's nowhere to be seen, like, and I'm thinking, oh my God, where is he? Like, I'm looking around, and then I think to myself, oh, I'll bring my rod in, because obviously the bait's probably been crucified by the crayfish, and put my hand to my pod, which is not there. So I look, and the pod is basically, it's like it's been dragged along the bank, and it's like hanging in the water, and there's no rod and reel, that's gone. And I'm like, I can't believe this. So basically, what I think happened is either a carp or a tench has took my nice lobworm, run off with it. Obviously, they're just little silly float reels, and they ain't got bait runners on them or anything. And I didn't have obviously I was float fishing, so it would have been a Starlight top of the float and that. And basically, yeah, the rod pod was in the water as if it had been dragged along the bank, and then when the first 2 front legs of it went over the side, it fell down towards the water. The rod's obviously come off the pod, gone straight in the water, and them carp, like, do you know what I mean? Even if it was like a 15-pound carp, they're pretty strong little buggers, you know what I mean? So they easily could have pulled the rod off to wherever. And well, hopefully the fish has got unhooked from the hook, and it didn't like go around with a waggler rod that attached to it. No, but I don't know, it's a bit strange, because the waggler rod had a cork handle, and then you would think that might just float, but don't know. So either the fish has pulled it in the pond and took it along somewhere, and it's got snagged on something, and then the fish has pulled hard and got the hook out of its mouth, and that's hopefully what has happened. Or someone's come over while I was asleep and sort of took the rod, cut the line, and pushed the rod pod so it's just hanging in the water. So it looks like a fish has taken my rod, but we will never know, will we? But anyway, so I'm sitting there looking at it, and my rod's hanging in my pod is hanging in the water. I'm looking around, Ben's nowhere to be seen. I'm thinking, where's he gone? Has he actually left me? And then, like, I don't know, I could hear some sort of noise of, like, because there was these bushes right over the other side of the pond, yeah. And then I can see Ben with his famous baseball cap. Basically, he had a fish on his rod, yeah, and it's gone in where all the bushes are and all that. And I can hear him shouting to me, Chapman, come on, come and help me. I'm thinking, come and help you, you nut. I said, I'm thinking, you've left me here. I've lost my rod and reel, and like, do you know what I mean? And now you're calling me round there. You think I'm going to leave like the chair and that, my tackle box. But anyway, he had a little like landing net with him as well. And anyway, so he's ended up catching the fish, and then he's come running down the bank round to me with this fish in a net, like, and he's got round to me, and I'm not joking. It was a perch, and it must have weighed £2. It was a brilliant perch for the heath as well. It was lovely. It was. So I've cut the pictures of him with it, and like we put it back in the pond, this swam off, whatever. And then I've said to him, what's going on? Where have you been? And he's like, I've been round there perch fishing. I was like, Ben, I said, look at my pod. He's like, oh, why did you do that? And I was like, why did I do? I didn't do that, you know. He said, where's your rod? And I said, what do you mean, where's my rod? My rod's gone. And he's like, he's looking at it and the drag mark along the bank and that and that. He said, fucking hell, you must have, something's taken your bait and pulled your rod in the water. And I was like, yeah, well, hopefully that fish has got my rod snagged somewhere and he's managed to get the hook out of his mouth, whatever, which they probably would. So, do you know what I mean? Don't think that there's some poor fish in the pond that's hooked to a rod or whatever, because I think it definitely would have got off. But there is that little inkling that somebody stole my rod and made it look like it had been pulled in by a fish. But then again, I doubt it. You know what I mean? Like, and I reckon if someone was next to me, you know what I mean? Like, you just get that sense, don't you? And I would have woke up like, but yeah, thanks, Ben, leaving me all alone. Left all alone. Yeah. No, but Ben come round, like, and I said, how long you left me? And he goes, oh, only about an hour. I was like, oh, fucking hell. He said, oh, I ain't left you either. I was watching. I could see you from around there. I was like, yeah, well, you didn't stop my rod from being excavated. Do you know what I mean? And, yeah, well, me and Ben sort of, well, I had to pack up then because I didn't have another rod. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the second rod that rod got pond driven. The other rod got snapped. Bloody hell. And they was both the same. Can you believe it? Right? This is the same rod that previously had been hooked into a fence and snapped, which is in another CHAP tale. So go back and look for it. The title of the CHAP tale will let you know what one it is. But yeah, so I suppose the moral of the story is don't fall asleep. You shouldn't fall asleep anyway. Especially, yeah, you shouldn't. No. Yeah, it's too dangerous, and make sure that if you ever did fall asleep, whoever was with you made sure you was awake before they left you. Because it's dangerous out there, man. All right, sweet. Nice one. Thanks for listening, peeps. Like, subscribe, smash bells, comment, and all that sort of stuff. And I will speak to you lot in the next one. Mwah. CHAP tales. Don't you wanna hear some CHAP tales?